Did you see my tweet?
Oh, okay. I did, yeah.
Yeah, we
think we're
feel it.
live.
Oh, we are? Okay. How cool. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder.
I'm gonna go on I feel like posting stuff sometimes, like just on my Twitter about the book club, like the secret, like the backstage announcements.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like someone might be here. I feel like so paranoid when I touch my own face now, even if I'm in my own house.
Yeah, me too. It's really like highlighted how much I do touch my face.
Yeah, as I continuously touch my face.
Okay. So how do we see if people are here? Oh, is that one
up in the corner?
eyeball?
Yeah, two. Oh, hi.
Okay.
How's it going?
But then we can't tell until they say something in the comments.
Yeah, I think so.
We have
So
5 minutes.
if you're here, say hi.
Say hi, so we can know who's here. Should do attendance. I'm gonna go on Twitter and see who said they would be here and take note of who actually showed up.
Bring your tea.
Hey.
Oh, hello.
Hi. And is this the first time you've done this? Is it that obvious?
It is. It is the first time we've done this. Thank you for retweeting us, even though I think that's a sad. Oh, it's a smiley face. Okay, I can't see. I have glasses and I still can't see. Thank you for retweeting us, Miles.
Yeah. I was really pleased with how much support all that got.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. You'll have to check Twitter for me because the Wi-Fi's off on my phone.
Okay.
Glad to help. Thanks. I'm kind of nervous. Like nobody else. I mean, I'm not face to face with anybody, but
yeah, it's interesting being on the other side of it. But we can see the comments. I guess it's not that different. Okay. So, oh wait, yeah, book club. So yeah, if anyone's like, I need the link. Okay. So does anyone have tea? Oh, do you guys like my mug?
Hi, Beth. What the? I love it.
So when I was in French class, I technically joined the French club. You didn't really have to join. And we had t-shirts that said this. And then I went to France like a couple years, 3 years later or something. And I found this mug. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Special.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point, Daniel.
What? Yeah,
Daniel said that Steph mentioned Prime.
What's that story? Should I Google it?
At the beginning.
What does that mug say? It says, "What the fuck?"
The book.
There's a seal, and seal in French is "fuck," and so it's like apparently it's a joke. It was just my French teacher who said it once, but then I went to France and I found that mug, so it's the thing, I guess. Megan, are you there? So Megan has a little bit Wi-Fi issues. Oh no, we actually lost Megan after a great start. Come back, please. Okay. Or is it time yet? Okay, we have 1 minute and then we're technically supposed to start. What doesn't like that? Yeah, he's in the hospital with COVID-19. Okay. That is so sad. Oh my gosh. John Ryan. Wow, it's just like getting everybody. We all staying in? We're all staying in and staying safe, right? Yeah. Yeah, she froze and she'll be back, I guess. I've got her on the WhatsApp. Cool. 7. So I guess this is officially started. Oh wait, no, it's still not 4 yet. I also have these lemon bars that I made. And I made them with almond flour. Wouldn't actually recommend it, but it's not a bad substitute either. Okay. I'm gonna text Megan. Okay. Hi, I'm watching the live stream. That's Natalie. Natalie is here. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Kateri, and then Megan is coming back shortly, hopefully, and then Natalie is here right now, or is watching, but she's at work today. So in the future, we will do it on a Saturday because she's all the way in New Zealand, so she's 23 hours ahead of us. So in the future, we'll do it on Saturday so she can do it on her Sunday and be with us. There she is. Natalie Chi is in the house. Still haven't heard from Megan. Let's see. Does anyone use StreamYard? Does anyone know if Megan can just hop back in? So we are really like, Jessica, hey yo, we are really trying to encourage as many people. Hi, Audrey. Okay, I think she's coming back. We're trying to there she is. Come on.
Hey.
Yay! Okay, we got her back.
My Wi-Fi kicked me off.
Bummer.
Yeah, okay. I'm literally right next to the modem, so I don't know what's going on, but I'll be
here. You should push your screen down a teensy bit. Like, yeah. There we go. Wow, we've got 13 people. This is so cool. You guys don't know how many times I thought it was like leading up, like the weeks leading up to this thing, I was like, it's just gonna be us. No, it's gonna come.
I don't know. I feel like we have enough friends, right? Like that we're excited.
Yeah, one of my friends who's not necessarily Yang Gang, but said she would pop in, but she's a big reader, so yeah, hopefully she'll pop in at some point.
Oh
so
yeah, can you all... Natalie. Yeah, it's the Yang Gang shirt, the one that.
Dude, that's cool. Oh, I brought my hat. I have my hat. I should put that on. Boom.
Oh, I should have worn my beanie, but I didn't want to distract from my librarian glasses.
Yeah, no, you're good. This is very cricket. Okay, so I was just telling them how. Well, I think we could maybe do a quick check-in and like people saying like if they've read the book and if they liked it or not. Because we did a lot of encouraging for people to come anyway. Andrew, the man himself, retweeted us tweeted us, and so we got some of you I think have just found out about us recently and didn't have time to get the book and read it. But we're always going to be encouraging people to come to the meeting if you haven't read it anyway, because you can like still take, learn something, take part in the discussion, even if you haven't read the book. Trust me, as a former English major who didn't always do the reading.
Oh no, I know. Snoop was my best friend during all of my literature classes, especially Shakespeare. I don't know if you had to take Shakespeare, Kateri, but it was
a couple times
rough. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, we got some new people.
Okay. Hello. Read the book, loved it.
First nonfiction.
Cool. People liking it.
Read in less than a day.
In less than a day. Damn, that's so cool.
It's very easy reading. So if you haven't read it, I would still say read it. It is very easy reading. Easy reading in that it's easy to get through in a day. It's an emotional read.
It's an emotional read. I remember at the beginning we had someone who said that they couldn't handle it, like it was too depressing, and they were like, I'm gonna come in next month, and I was like, oh, sorry, because I hadn't read it yet, so I was just like, what is in you?
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into it for sure. But it got emotional for me, so I'm sure it got emotional for other people.
Yeah. So I started last night. I answered some questions at the back like a bona fide nerd.
Yes, you're our kind of people, Audrey.
Heartbreaking at times. Yeah. So just chime in with some of your general thoughts, because we probably should know that before we like go into a play-by-play.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking at times. Yes. Anyone have like anything like in particular?
Yeah, David, like, questions in the back. Sometimes when you have nonfiction books and some novels sometimes too, they will have reading group guides. So they'll have questions in the back. Yeah. So it's kind of like a guide for.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
There's 19 questions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if any of you guys like, we didn't really go off of these, like we're just going to talk about what we wanted to talk about. But if anyone did want to answer a question, like just let us know. Type in the number.
Here's one. Janine said, excellent lens into a tough world, walking in the author's shoes. Yeah, I felt like she did a really good job of with her emotions and having them come across clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy to kind of put yourself in her shoes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very like visceral. Like it felt like, and I've seen her on Twitter, like I think recently she was talking about like just like rage writing. Mm-hmm. And it very much felt like this was just like so from the heart, like staying up late, just like hashing it out.
Yeah.
Type of narrative.
Yeah. Therapy.
Yeah. And I guess I'm just curious, I'm just wondering if it's inspired anyone else to write their own story at all, because that's very much what her story was also writing their own story. I'd be curious to know.
Oh, Kimberly said it hit home. She raised her daughter as a single parent. Yeah, that's really hard. Mm-hmm. My mom was a single mom several different times. And I felt like sometimes I was being the mom too. So it's not an easy thing to do at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we'll talk about actually, Janine. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
For sure. I think Kateri and I and Natalie all underlined some of those same passages about family and friends.
Yeah. So, waitress.
Set in my area. Oh, and
who read the audiobook? By the way, I do say, like, we need to like do some work here, Megan. Like, people think that reading audiobooks doesn't count. I don't get where that comes from.
Oh, it totally counts.
It totally counts, guys. Like, absolutely. Like, I took a like.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying I took a ECE class where we like talked about how wordless picture books, you can find wordless picture books for kids, and that counts as reading too, because like they just can't read yet anyway. I mean, the kids are listening to you read. Like that's how we learn to read, is listening to our parents read, or someone read, so
yeah.
Let us know what you thought of the audiobook, if you liked it, loved it. Cool.
Oh, David said he's been writing a book dealing with cancer and then being a stay-at-home dad. Oh, wow. After being a touring comedian.
That's awesome. I would love to read that book.
Yeah, hit us up. We'll be your beta readers.
Beta readers, yeah. Both Megan and I like read and write and edit, so
yes,
let us know.
We're both we both have it's called a BA in when you have an English degree. So I always say I have a badass degree in English.
I love that. Oh, I'm so using that.
Yeah.
I love it. We are listening to the audiobook, but reading. Oh, actually, I'm doing that right now. Listening to the audiobook and reading the book at the same time. I'm doing that right now with Huzzah! Which is really good. I mean, for me, I almost have to, because this is so not my normal thing. Like reading something that's so fact based. Like I need to like have both forms to like fully process the information.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, Audrey? Fellow English.
Yay, in English here. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I love about starting a book club with the Yang Gang, is that like I'm so used to being really surrounded by like people like Megan. But like it's an opportunity to like, the Yang Gang is so diverse. Like there's so many like actual like mathematicians and scientists and stuff.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like
that'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah. I'm about to be surrounded by that too, so.
Right.
Yang Gang.
I did that with Andrew's book too. Yang book is my Yang book. I like how we call this the Yang book. It's the book of Yang.
Yes.
Like our, highlights. Yeah, I don't highlight. I just use pencil, but
yeah. I mean,
I feel ya.
I use pen, and I used it so much in Maid that my pen ran out of ink actually. So
yeah. So should we do like another like few minutes and then get into some specifics?
Yeah, we'll give everybody a few more minutes to come in.
So we have 22 people. Oh my gosh, this is like what I was hoping for. So this is awesome. So what else? So make sure you've just checked in and let us know, like, have you read the book? Did you not? Are you reading it now? And did you read the audiobook? And did you like it or not? Did anyone not like the book? You're allowed to say if you did not like the book.
Yeah, don't think
like this is
yeah, don't think that this is like, oh, we're all agreeing and we all loved it. You're allowed to criticize. Like this isn't.
It's the Yang Gang book club. You can't have a Yang Gang book club and not allow for differing opinions.
Yeah.
I underline with pencil, yes, because it feels a little more like less violent on my book.
Less violating. I don't normally underline or write in my books, but I did. Ended too swiftly.
Yeah.
Okay, Audrey, I kind of felt the same way. Kateri and I were actually saying that we wish she would have kept going almost.
Yeah.
We want to know, because her life is so different now. I don't know if you guys follow her on Twitter, but I mean, I think she's married and has like 3 or 4 kids.
She has 3 or 4 kids? I thought she just had a second.
So.
I didn't know
she just has 2. I mean, she said family of 4. Yeah, so she's like another kid and a husband. So, and she wrote a book, obviously. A book that Barack Obama read, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How similar are these 2 books in that the Trevor Noah thing when he was like, you went to the White House, you were with Barack Obama. You gotta tell people that shit all the time. And then I just happened to see this halfway through that it was Obama's summer reading list, and I was like, Stephanie, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, she needs to tell people that. Oh, I did want to mention, because I didn't we didn't get to put this on the Twitter because obviously so much has happened, but she does have something called, I think it's called Maid to Reps, where she's trying to get her book in the hands of representatives, kind of like a plug for UBI in a way too, to let people know like this is how people in the system are suffering and stuff like that. So if you do want to check it out, it's on her website.
Yeah. So I was interested in whether people thought her choices in life or just unluckiness led to her many struggles. Single parent, not financially well off, etc.
Yeah.
So you're trying to say, like, was it more like forces outside of herself that got her into her situation or her choices? I mean, that probably puts us to a really heavy conversation, which was around choosing to have Mia, of course. Like that is the reason she ends up in this situation, basically.
Yeah. I think I underlined that part, and I was like, it kind of sucks.
Me too.
That people that's a real choice that women have to make all the time. In her situation is
right.
What to do with that. So.
Yeah. I mean, she's pretty simple about it. You know, if you didn't read it, like she really is pretty just like, I just, I'm not against it, but I just didn't want to. Like, I just didn't see that for myself. Like, and this, she just kind of, she didn't really like go into much depth there. She just was just kind of like, this just kind of just like, I think highlights the like, it's just a deeply personal thing. And
it is, yeah.
Like people just know. And, yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many comments. This is why we need Natalie. Natalie, by the way, is like way more on top of her shit than Megan and I are. No one sees that.
Yeah, we tend to talk a lot.
And like time just goes out the window.
Yes, Natalie keeps us on track. She's in New Zealand, so she's a day ahead of us actually. So when she does check in on here, she's actually on her lunch break because she is an essential.
She said she was on earlier. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did. I saw her.
Not a lot of flowery language. How did you guys like the writing style? Is that a good thing, David, or not? I personally, I did like the writing style. I mean, I think that, like I said, it's very like emotive. So for me, like the book was less about like this whole idea of craft. Like as someone who's like studied creative writing, like there's all this buildup about like craft and like, and like that wasn't the point of the book to her, So I didn't get to. I turned my name and came back to me and said, "Hi, Natalie." I forgot what I was saying, but yeah, just like I normally like a balance, and she doesn't necessarily. I don't think she really even tries to strike a balance. She's just trying to get her message across, and I think that's the point of the book.
Yeah.
So I didn't really mind it.
No, it's very stream of consciousness, which is interesting because the school that I went to, they were very against that. They were like, do not try to write in stream of consciousness. But I think in this case, it got her points across pretty well and made it kind of easy to read. I guess it's good then that her stream of conscious thoughts weren't jumbled.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty clear. Like there were some points that I was confused, but overall it was really clear.
Yeah.
So we are going to be experimenting with how we run this. So today we're just going to like kind of go through the book. So if you have your book, we have the paperback edition. If you have the hardback edition, there could be differences in page numbers, but there's not that many editions of this book. So some of the biggest, I highlighted these quotes. Oh, do you have your quote page, Megan?
I can.
Or do you need me to do it? I should get it on I should open it. Hold on.
I have the theme page and then I have the quote page.
Okay. We can go back and forth, I guess. So we kept a list of our quotes that we wanted to talk about. So if you guys have any, you can feel free to chime in. We will try our best to keep an eye on the chat. I don't have like the hugest view of it. Quotes. Okay. So I think these are like a great way to get started anyway, right? The ones that we have for chapter 1 that I highlighted both of them. Yeah. So chapter 1, page 4. Oh, you know what? That's funny. I didn't even underline him. I guess I just liked that you put it in there.
Yeah. This I think was the part that I was most amazed by. I mean, she says this and then she expands on it in the book a lot. And that's why it stuck out to me so much, as I was like, I mean, I had to check my privilege because I have not lived in that world. So
yeah, all of us, I mean, not all of us, but a good amount of us. I feel like it's like kind of her thesis statement for the book is, I was overwhelmed by how much work it took to prove I was poor. And then later on page 8, being poor, living in poverty, seemed a lot like probation, the crime being a lack of means to survive.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, guys? It's so loaded. Like,
it's very loaded.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, I think it's like the fact that she's equating it to a crime is like really heavy, you know?
Yeah.
So what are your...
I mean, I just bringing me back to something I studied in, this book club is making me want to go back through all my college notes. But it's like bringing me back to this whole essay I read, this whole essay I read, that was about like, actually takes you back to like the time of the British and coming here and colonizing, and the way the systems there influence the systems here, and like equating poverty with crime.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy to think that, like, having read that this is like back in like the 1700s, early 1700s, to now, like, people are still talking about this shit. Like, this is still a problem.
Yeah.
You know?
It's amazing.
Like, in our systems.
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of years and we still haven't figured it out. David said a ton of red tape to prove poverty. Yeah, and I think one of the things I like most about this book is that she really isn't afraid to dive into that.
Yeah. I mean, that is like the guts of this book. Yeah. How hard it is to be poor, and how hard it is to like make yourself poor to the system that is supposed to help you, like, quote unquote, you know.
Someone said probation requires following strict rules. Yeah, she goes into that too in later chapters. I'm not sure if we put that in here, but
so, you know, what's interesting is that, like, well, I didn't know about the whole WIC, and it's WIC, right? And then what's the other one? SNAP. Giving you, like, it's like coupons to buy specific things at the grocery store. Yeah. And I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of experience with that. I worked at Wawa, which is like the Sheetz of the North, and it's better than Sheetz though. And so I had a lot of experience with EBT cards and the restrictions that go with that. But I mean, I didn't work in like a grocery store or anything, so I had just never really encountered that. So yeah, that was interesting to learn.
Well, and then I was making these lemon bars with my cousin virtually the other day, and she told me that I brought this up to her, and she's like, yeah, actually, I just found out about that too, and it was because of coronavirus. She had read an article that was telling people, like, hey, when you're grocery shopping, look at the label, and if you see WIC, don't buy it, because the people who depend on their assistance money to get food and like can't get anything else, like if that is gone, they can have money but they can't buy food. Right. And she was just like, that I did not know that, like, that blew her mind. So we both found out about that recently.
Yeah. And Natalie,
you know what, I feel like,
okay, Natalie,
just cooked.
Yes. Okay, so I have a story about this. When I worked at Wawa, so there was a deli there, and there was this one guy who would always come in and order a hot sandwich and then get mad because his EBT card wouldn't work for it. And we had to keep telling him, order it cold so that your EBT card will pay for it, and then just tell us to heat it up and we will. So that was something. That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely true. The restrictions on it are very stringent. I mean, is that the right word? But you know, you have to follow them, and if not, you just don't.
And why? Like, why?
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's what we really need to do. Like, the follow-up is to this is like, okay, now we do the research and try to find, is there an actual reason why, or like, why? Like, does anyone really ask that? And like, does anyone really try to figure that answer out?
That's a really good point.
So Yang Gang Book Club team, first assignment of today.
Well, someone said, even though it's poor and homeless who might have no way to prepare food. Yeah, that's true. So even though they can't buy cooked food, what if they don't actually have a way to prepare it? That's a good point. That's wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how to react to that.
All these things, like,
yeah.
Like, always just like, no one ever talks about this, so no one ever thinks about it. Like, unless you're stuck.
Yeah. Someone said there are income and educational restrictions. For instance, if you're on SNAP in college, you have to also work 20 hours a week. Yeah. Stephanie went into that a little bit. She was doing online courses, literally staying up all night, drinking coffee, getting her schoolwork done, and then still working.
Yeah, because there's this whole myth of like, oh, like it's supposed to be there so that you can have a safety net, and then you're supposed to like do these things that she was doing, right? Like these institutions like college, university that we believe in, like they're supposed to help you get out of it. And then it's what's crazy to me, I don't know her whole story. We don't know her story after, right? But she became a writer. Like it's just so interesting to me because I had this whole debacle because one of the things I want to do is be a writer. And so like you don't need a degree to be a writer. It can help. Like there's in different ways it can help, but it's just so interesting to me like when you think of that, like the lineup of that story of it just doesn't make sense. Like
here's an example. Kimberly said when her daughter was young, she made $42 a month, too much to qualify for assistance, but didn't make enough for rent, utilities, and groceries. Stephanie goes into that too. She talks about how it's such a delicate balance, and she goes into the details of literally having to redo your paperwork every month pretty much to prove that you aren't making enough money, or if you make several dollars more, you lose much more in assistance.
Okay. T card to buy my groceries.
It's okay to buy WIC in normal times when you heard not to buy it. Yeah, because of the panic. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Audrey, yeah. Audrey said also the inner battle Land had of feeling like going to school for writing was impractical because she needed stability and money, and the arts aren't necessarily a guarantee for that. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you can't do what you want because you have to do what you can for what you need.
And this is going to get into a whole other topic, but just the whole idea of like our system does not value art.
No.
If only someone came up
with it. Man, who's that guy?
Basic solution. Huh. You know what, guys? Second assignment. I think we should think of something that could like help everybody. No strings attached. Tax-free. That'd be cool.
Okay.
We should get on that.
We'll move on. I think all of you guys have super valid points.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 2. Because I think that's all.
Oh, we already got on that.
Yeah, because I think chapter 1, that's a lot of what she talked about was her transitioning from one type of housing to another type of housing.
Yeah, that first part is like with the housing situation is like the scariest part.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Depressing part of the whole book.
Yeah. In chapter 2, okay, so that's when she meets I'm blanking on his name. Jamie? This is chapter 2 where she meets Jamie.
The camper. I'm just looking at the quotes.
Yeah, yep. So she meets Jamie. And then we were talking about this earlier because the quote that we actually saved from this one in particular was from page 20. And choosing to keep the baby, I would be choosing to stay in Port Townsend. And we talked about this earlier before we officially started. That's such a big choice to make. She was about to go off to school. She and Jamie knew that they were leaving each other. That was the whole point of their relationship was we have 4 months and then we're both going our separate ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just changed her life forever.
Yeah.
So we can probably move on to all the housing and like
so chapter 3 is when she starts moving into that transitional housing and has to go through all of that.
Right. So has anyone, I don't know, has anyone experienced this at all? Like, or like have anything to share about working in transitional housing or? I definitely felt that sense of like claustrophobia. That was like kind of a claustrophobia and paranoia, I think were probably the two biggest feelings that I felt reading just the different ones from the homeless shelter to what are the names of them? The Fairgrounds apartment. And then it's interesting how like she goes to this like social worker or someone who's involved with the Fairgrounds apartment, and then or is it the one before that? I'm confusing them. And just talks about how unsafe she feels with her daughter, and it's like then that she's like, oh well, you can like try this.
Yeah.
And it was just so it felt very
all
like
of a sudden there's all these other options and
yeah.
Why didn't you tell me about these before? What I thought was interesting too is during all of this, she says something. She said, I got the feeling that people who needed government assistance were assumed to be a very uneducated bunch and were treated accordingly. How degrading to learn that since I needed money, I must not know how to keep my costs low. And what was interesting about that is they're treating them as if they're uneducated, but then they're putting the burden of educating the landlords about TBRA and all of that on the people who needed the assistance. So instead of the social worker advocating on your behalf, you have to go take a class, which takes time out of work. You have to go take a class to learn how to explain the TBRA process to potential landlords, which was so interesting to me because if they're so uneducated and you're treating them as such, then why are you putting that burden on them? It was just an interesting contrast to me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot, like talking about a lot of these like ways the system is set up is just like, I think at the end of the day, it kind of all comes down to like, these systems were clearly not set up by people who had been in them. These systems are clearly set up by people, you know, the person that's like going to say like, just put all this stock in like a class, like, oh, like pat yourself on the back, like, oh, I made this class and it has all these resources, but then they don't know anything about the actual like practicalities and the real life implications of what it means for these people and what the rules they put around this. It's fascinating that the stigma is that poor people are dumb, yet they give them the most complicated paperwork, sets them up to fail. Yeah. It is fascinating. Like, it's darkly fascinating.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a perfect way to sum it up, David. I think that's exactly it, you know. So yeah, that was definitely interesting.
It's something, it's like worth talking about, I think also like the bigger picture here, like beyond the book, the text itself of like what led her, you know, this is something I want to talk about later, but she talks about, you know, not coming from a background of poverty particularly. And just this idea of like, we have this story because, you know, she had some education, she had this aspiration to be a writer. And it, you know, obviously it'd be wrong to think that all the other people who are in this situation now wouldn't have this themselves. There, you know, there's probably a reason, you know, that they don't. So I think it's just kind of like the fact that we have this book in our hands right now is like something to think about. Like thinking about why and how.
David, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Dicks, yeah. I didn't even think, actually, I didn't think about it. But yeah, that's, yeah. Okay, so we're on chapter 3. Should we move on? Or was there anything else on chapter 3?
Yeah, Audrey, that's a good point too. way easier to slide into poverty or near poverty than it is to go the other direction. Yeah, I think she talks about that a little bit too.
Yeah. So this is one of the most, I will say this is one of the most poignant parts of the book. Oh wait, let's take a pause for this comment. So I was homeless in 2008 and lived in my car for a month because there was no way I could go to a shelter. I have a bachelor's degree from U of Michigan.
Yeah.
Yep. Just like our systems, like I feel like for us,
it's just interesting because we put so much emphasis on education, right? Like you have to go get that degree, you have to do that.
Yeah.
And
which was not to get political, but it was a big fault for me once I kind of started to see it from like the idea of free college. There's problems there, you know, like we need to fix the system too.
I'm glad
at least I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying there's other things. It's bigger than that. So this from chapter 3, I kind of wanted to. I'm good now. Whoa.
Yeah, I just wanted to end on that positive. Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. A mind of the heart.
Thank you for telling us that story. So end of chapter 3, which we have a list of themes, and I put scarcity mindset, and I think this really comments on that in an interesting way. This is after she talks about a neighbor that's a single mom, and seems normal. We don't, we kind of just see her like playing with her kid, and then this happens, or she collapses or something and gets carried out on like a gurney, right? I think that gets us to the right spot. So in response to that, my first thoughts weren't whether the lady was okay or about the little girl. I just hoped Jamie wouldn't hear about it. I lived in fear that anything bad happening around Mia, including at the early Head Start daycare she attended, would reflect badly on my fragile permission to mother her full time. So it's like scarcity mindset right there, right? Like we know Stephanie's not a bad person.
Yeah.
Like this is just that primal like mother like situation of like, how is this gonna affect me? Because she's just stuck.
How am I going to survive? And then in turn, my daughter surviving.
Of course, yeah, right. So wanted to read that. So then we have chapter 4, the fairgrounds apartment. So I guess this is where Tibra. We find out about Tibra. Does anyone know about Tibra? Was this familiar to anybody?
I think I had seen someone put a comment about that earlier. I'll see if I can find it.
I had to take a break after reading that. Yeah, me too. Weird.
I think it was Ronald. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, definitely Jamie in that situation, obviously with scarcity mindset, is also a big factor.
Yeah.
Abusive relationships. It's a great program to get back on your feet and start paying rent based off your income. It's usually 30%. So it's like 30% of what?
Of what you make.
You get that. She talks about the trauma from the last 6 months since we'd been homeless, and dealing with Jamie always fighting me. It paralyzed my whole system, my brain, stomach, nerves. Everything was on constant high alert. Nothing was safe. Nothing was permanent. So just kind of, it's good that she definitely talks about like the trauma of being poor.
Mm-hmm. Which I think I even wrote in the margins of my book. I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I feel like we get so, even me, someone who has struggled with mental health, like I didn't even put it in that perspective. You know, you always think about the physical. You always think about what this does to her monetarily, or just her and her housing, or that kind of thing. And you don't necessarily think about how like poverty can cause trauma. For sure. Oh yeah. Beth said hypervigilance. Yeah, I think she definitely showed some of that for sure.
Is this a term that people use like in psych or something?
Yes, so hypervigilance, it's when you are in a constant state of like alertness.
Yeah.
That's not like a technical like definition for it, but essentially hypervigilance is what a lot of like soldiers, especially and veterans, struggle with. You're just like on a constant state of high alert.
Yeah.
And anxiety.
High anxiety, right.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, in follow-up to that, recovery from the trauma was so vital, maybe the most critical, but not only could no one help me with that, I didn't yet know that I needed it. So it's almost like if we are really going to keep these systems and the people who put them in place really care, they should read this part and realize that that is a big thing, that should be there.
Yeah.
I'm poking my book right now. Poke. That. Yeah. And I think also as a comment, being the Yang Gang Book Club, right? A comment on UBI, and like that got a lot of criticism because that was he was shouting that all over and over again. And it's like, oh, like that's not going to fix anything. And we're like, we know, but it's true. Like, it's true. Like you can, especially in these some of the neighborhoods throughout all of America that would get this money. Like we have to know that actually the harder part is next. For anyone who works in psych, mental health, social work, the hard part is actually like getting rid of the hypervigilance.
Yeah. Someone else in PTSD.
Yang, take note.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on chapter 4? I don't have anything really underlined.
No, I think that's pretty much.
Okay. Chapter 5, 7 different kinds of government assistance. Now, I was like gonna like write them all down, but I've like.
So I'm not gonna lie. In chapter 5, I was less focused on that and more focused on the dynamic within her family that was happening.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was like set out to do that, and then I like got distracted.
Yeah, I got like wrapped up in that, and I think pretty much all of the quotes we saved from that were about her family dynamic.
Right. So yeah, I was just basically going to say like I don't really get the chapter title.
Yeah, Audrey said this chapter was exhausting. It was like like emotionally, this one was exhausting for sure.
Has anyone read the this is a really popular one. Has anyone read The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls? Do I actually have it?
It's on my bookshelf, but I haven't read it.
I've read it and I think I have it, but I don't see it, so maybe I hope I didn't get rid of it. It's first of all, it's something we can all relate to because we all have family that infuriate us. So there, but when it's literally like costing you like your safety, your house, and like I don't know. Was anyone more infuriated? That'd be something I'd be interested to know. Was anyone more infuriated by the mom or by the dad?
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a good question.
Or by both. Because there was two completely different dynamics. One like gone and one there, but just like can't like and abusive basically.
Well, it's interesting because
at a certain point.
At first she doesn't even say that. Like she doesn't even like when we first meet her dad, we meet him in a good way, right? He's taking her in, he's taking care of her. And then by the end of it, when I saw what he did and what he said, I was like, wait, what? Like not only I mean her mom is more upfront about it, right? Her mom's more upfront about her, I guess, rejection of her in a way. You know, straight up saying like, you can't spend time with me if you don't want to spend time with let's take some comments. Jordan said,
someone said, my family to a T.
Yeah. Jordan said, I feel like the mom was worse. Okay. Yeah, the mom was interesting for sure.
So this is not me commenting on you, Jordan. This is me in my own head, but like I do wonder of like the sexism thing of like, oh, but like she's just going off, and then she's not being the nurturing parent. But
Yeah. I feel
but
like the
honestly,
mom
no,
was
I
having
think
a
it's valid
midlife
either way.
crisis or something because she
Wait, say that
married the
again?
young. I felt like the mom was having like the midlife crisis. Like she had the younger
Yeah,
man, and she went off to Europe, and she
yeah,
was living in a flat in France, and like
yeah. No, I think it's infuriating, and it's funny because it's just like, especially in fiction, like more often, or just stories, it's usually the dad that, like, they would be maybe be flopped,
yeah,
right? But it was, that was the situation. And so it was just an interesting, it was just my, in my thought process, like thinking through it, like my, like back and forth within my own head. But yeah, that was pretty infuriating. And like having her come back and be with the young guy, and like the whole thing with the burger,
yes,
the way her mom
yeah,
treated her at the restaurant. Yeah, that at the restaurant.
yeah.
Unforgivable.
That was it
Yeah.
was bad. Yeah. Someone else said the mom didn't want her former life. The dad felt shame for not being able to provide more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't know how to channel that shame or even talk
Yeah.
about it. And
I think
so
that's a good point.
it just built up in an
Yeah.
explosive way.
Right.
I felt like for me, and I think David said something about this about her dad lying about her. I feel like for me, and maybe this is just the way she told the story, I felt like for me that just came way out of left field. I don't know. I was like genuinely shocked by it. And I felt like my
Mhm.
reaction was so visceral. um,
Mhm.
because when you're young and you don't have anyone else to turn to, like your parents are supposed to be like the stability. And she thought she had that in her dad. And then for him to turn around and not only like kick her out of the house, which she understood and she had like come to terms with that, but to then turn around and tell everybody else that she was lying about the abuse
Yeah.
she had suffered, like I felt like for me that was more unforgivable to me than anything her mom had done because he didn't just take away the stability of him, he lied to her whole family, so then she didn't have
Yeah.
anyone to turn to.
Yeah.
um,
He like cut her off from any assistance she might have had.
yeah,
I mean, we don't know,
yeah.
but
Someone
that's the way it was presented.
Yeah. And someone said, I was under the impression that was because he knew he was in the wrong, but wanted to make it look like he was right. Yeah. And I definitely have family members that are like that. When they're in the wrong, they want to deflect the blame and deflect the blame.
Yeah.
So I've been in that
Yeah.
dynamic before.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think like her mom just bounces, and that part with the burger happens, and then the dad is the one that comes more into play, even the grandpa
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was interesting actually to see the similarities there that happened right later on with the car accident.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
That was definitely an emotional chapter. So those of you who got
yeah,
through it, proud of
yeah,
you. We're all in this
yeah,
together.
yeah.
And it's over.
It's
We don't have to read it again if you don't want to.
if you have to, yeah. I mean, this is probably not a book I'll like really return to. I'll return to it for the quotes because now I have all those.
Yeah, the quotes
But
are good.
it's not
But
much of a reread. But if it is for you, like that's cool too.
yeah,
But I'm very glad I read it, and I will
yeah.
pass it along. So,
For chapter 6, which is the farm. So that's when she's with Travis. Is that his name?
yeah. So this was really interesting to me, like the whole Travis thing.
Yeah, because her writing style, she jumps so quickly ahead sometimes
Yeah.
that you're like, what?
Yeah.
David, exactly. Yeah, he said, "Oh, Travis." Yeah,
Oh,
my thoughts exactly. Yeah.
do we all know someone like Travis?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. I come from the conservative California, so I know some guys like Travis.
We all know a Travis.
We all know Travis. But you know what? In defense, we should still be in defense of Travis as much as I'm sure he pissed us all off.
Yeah, he did try.
Because he is there. He's there for her kind of in the future, you know, like helping her move out and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that she did make sure to tell us that he was there when she still needed things. And I think it was less because of her and more because of Mia, but I still think, you know, he does deserve some credit for that. And the thing that I liked is that I thought, I don't even know that she really liked him that much in the first place, but at the end of chapter 5, she had said he smelled like work, which in my mind translated to stability. And so in her mind, I think it was less about it was less like I want this man and more so I need this man.
Yeah, Holly talked about the scarcity mindset being why.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because it's like, even in a narrative sense, you know, I'm always going to like read this as more of an English major, but in the narrative sense, you know, I think it's important to think of these things as her like authorial intent. Like she calls this chapter not Travis. She doesn't call it Travis's house. She could have called it Travis's house. She calls it the farm. And that now, having read the whole thing, it makes me think of like later on what Masula becomes.
Yeah.
And so there's this first attempt at like trying to create that environment and that like community and a world for herself, I think. But it's not there yet. This isn't the right one for her. Yeah. She was searching for stability. And also to add to that, I underlined on page 56, right in the middle. If I were honest with myself, I was too. Oh, this is starting continuation. If I was too, but mostly because in being with him, a shroud of stigmas from being a single mom fell off of me. So that's like, we're talking about the stigmas of being poor, and then she's got the added element of the stigma of being a single mom. And so I think that these ideas, all this like there's so much of this like anxiety and like we talked about the hypervigilance, and like so there's a hypervigilance of just like your social stigma too. And so she talks about that here, about how like it must have been worth it like for a while. Like that's why it kind of got drawn out for so long, because it was worth it to like, have that weight of knowing like I'm with a man who has a farm, who supports me and my kid, and he's a nice guy, you know.
Yeah,
Daniel. It's hard to pass that up.
Yeah, Daniel said she longed for some semblance of regular, even if it meant lowering some of her personal standards. Yeah. For sure. I think.
Which I don't think guys don't have that problem too, but it's just specific to women in this way. You know, I feel like generally speaking, single dads, they have their issues, but then like generally it's like really like, oh, you know, it's like a positive thing. But I don't feel this way, and I think most of us listening don't feel this way. But there's that element that's just out there of that social stigma. It exists, you know, of like stigma against a single mom. Like, what did you do to fuck that up? Like, why are you single?
Yeah. Another example of why women stay in those kind of relationships. Yeah, I mean.
Relationships, yeah.
On the upside.
Oh, bye, David. Thanks for all of your input.
Yeah.
Doing this is my first book club. Oh,
farm sounds rad.
See you next time. Plus, living on a farm sounds rad. Does anyone here live on a farm? Is it rad? Actually, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I really want to have chickens one day.
I know people have chickens. Audrey, aren't you creating a garden? That's like kind of close.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. Janine said not an equal country for women. She ranks higher if she has a man, even if he's a lame one.
A lame one.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think she kind of goes into that a little bit.
So she's in Oregon, she's in Oregon, right? Stephanie's in Oregon. in this part? Or is she in Washington?
I
thought it was Oregon.
I think we should know this. Audrey said Washington.
Okay. I don't know why I thought Oregon. Maybe it's because later she's in Oregon. Oh, I was just gonna say I'm from California, so like if anyone here is like from the Midwest, I was born and raised in California, so I feel like I have like total bubble. I'm from like the conservative part of California, but I just want to like throw that out there. I know Stephanie's not from the Midwest per se, but I appreciate all of your different perspectives. So, was there anything else?
I think
we kind of just talked. It's basically why she falls into that.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything you wanted to add.
No, that was pretty much what stuck out during that part.
So we're 5 minutes away from 5.
From
Megan.
What?
We're almost at 5 o'clock. We had talked about like trying to hit 5 o'clock, guys. And we're at chapter 7.
Okay. We're having too much fun with you guys. This is turning into a Mindful Skeptics 3-hour conversation.
Yeah. And I actually have to go into work tonight, so.
Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so chapter 7.
Let's get to the 8 is the porn house. So we can now let's definitely get into the maid stuff. So maybe we should just like look through the rest and try to find some of the most appropriate quotes, or anyone want to touch on anything to do with the houses that she was at.
Oh, David, glad you're back. So I was wondering, is anybody that is here right now, was anybody like a maid or a house cleaner or interiors or anything like that? Because I know for me, in college, that's how I paid for school. Is I was a hotel maid for 1 semester, and then I did interiors for the rest of the like 3 years. So for me, reading this was really interesting because a lot of what she's saying I totally blocked out of my memories. And so I would be reading and be like, oh my God, I did the same exact thing. So it's definitely an interesting perspective. So if you guys have any of that kind of perspective, go ahead and put that in the chats as we're talking, because I think that's a unique perspective when you're reading the book.
And thanks for chiming on that, Audrey. Let's all thank David's wife in the chat for letting him come back.
Thank you, Mrs. David's wife.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's interesting is that from now on, all of the chapters are the names, for the most part, are the names of houses, and that's how she lives her life.
Right.
From then on, is in terms of which house she's cleaning at the time.
Yeah. So, so Megan, with your past experience, I'm curious to throw it over to you. Is there anything that you wanted to go to first?
Let me look at these right quick.
Let's see.
So it looks like page 84. I mentioned that like 50 times. So.
So this is skipping to 84, chapter 9. Yeah. Oh, the move out clean.
Yeah. So she was talking about.
So we should preface this by saying, like, we've had a couple chapters of her talking about like getting into her usual routine with being a maid, and here I think she's not yet at the I forget what it's called, but I think of it like the Molly maid, because we have a Molly maid here. But she starts with a more like independent business.
Yeah.
And so she's there and doing that, and then this is a particular kind of clean where someone just pays you to come in and just clean the gutted house, I guess. Well, there was some stuff there.
Yeah.
Because it's getting moved out from.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been upkept by her or anyone.
This particular passage, though, is the one with the sad house.
Okay. So what chapter is that?
That is, so it's page 84, which is chapter 9. It is the move out queen.
Yeah.
That is what the chapter is about. But the particular passage is when she is actually, David said, I love how she gave insight that maids see us and know us better than most people in our lives. And I think it's because being a maid, when you already feel lonely, can feel lonelier because you really are by yourself a lot of times when you're cleaning. Each of us would have like a partner sometimes, but even when you go in, you're cleaning different parts of the house. You're not really talking to each other. So she was saying, though I never met or spoke to any of them, though many did not know that I existed, my clients began to feel like family members or friends I worried about, wondered about, cared for from a distance. I wondered what my clients did in the evenings, where they sat, what they ate and watched the day before, how they felt day to day. My life had become quiet. These people gave me something to look forward to, people to hope for and want good things for other than myself. And like, for me, that really stuck out because that's how I felt when I was like cleaning hotel rooms. I was like, okay, this is a great time to kind of get out of my own life and all of my problems and my issues and focus on these other people's lives. And I think it was really interesting that like for her, it was almost like a reprieve from her life and she got to live in these other people's lives, which is interesting.
I mean, I live in Santa Barbara and I work for a couple people who have a lot of wealth and I go to their houses and it's like, it's true, you know, like it's interesting even if you're not like the maid, but I think more often, you know, good people, and this is like a heartwarming tear for me reading that passage. But yeah, I can relate. I think a lot of people can relate. I think there's a lot of people out there who might be bitter, but I think there's a lot of people out there, probably even more possibly, who would more so have this kind of a reaction or relation, even though she doesn't really interact with these people.
Yeah.
It's still a relation, like, you know, it's a funny kind of relation.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of like to vacation in other people's lives, right? That's why we read books.
Yeah.
You know, so for her, it was like an actual vacation and that she was like physically there, which is interesting.
Yeah. So let's
that
see.
One really stuck out to me. And also something kind of funny is that at one point she talks about hairspray on the counter and the lady made her clean it all over again.
Yeah.
And I literally like laughed out loud because that would happen to me all the time as a hotel maid. They would come in and swipe their hand all the way down the counter. And if there was even like the teeniest, tiniest little spot that felt rough, they would make us clean the whole entire counter again, even if it was just one spot.
Wow.
Yeah, so I literally laughed out loud and I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, that's not something that, like, you know, sometimes you read a book and you're like, oh, she probably just like made that detail up or that's hyperbole or something like that. And it's like, no, that's for like maids and, you know, house cleaners and stuff like that. That's a legitimate thing. Like, they hold you to such high standards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
and just then pay you nothing.
Yeah, Daniel said, OMG, Megan, that must have been annoying. It kind of was, but at the same time, it was kind of like, well, I mean, it's life, I guess. You just gotta do it, you know. And like she said,
how often did you have to redo it?
Less so as I got more into it, and I think Stephanie kind of talked about that too. Is that the more she cleaned, the less she had to go over it, and the more it just kind of becomes an automatic reaction. Or automatic.
I mean, whoever was like I don't know, like just recently I was looking at the back of my toilet and like has noticed that spot in their apartment that you're like, I never cleaned that. I should clean that. And then you try to clean it and you're like, this is the worst decision. I should have just left it.
Well, that's so weird because I mean, and I'd like to like maybe reach out to Stephanie at some point and ask her, like, because I have like random questions sometimes and I'm like, I wonder if she ever But I know for me, there are certain parts of my house now that I always clean because I was a maid. So David said, did anyone learn how to clean better? Yeah, I mean, I had to do this as my job. So like I clean my baseboards and like that, you know, that part of the toilet that you don't normally like dust or clean. I do that because like I
Yeah.
know how dirty they can get from experience.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We had a cleaning lady that would come, and she is the one that inspired my mom to do the like punishment is to clean the baseboards.
Yeah, it's hard work because there's no comfortable way to clean baseboards. Like,
yeah.
you know, and one thing that's interesting is that Stephanie does go into a lot of detail, and this covers a lot of the chapters, so we can fly through a lot of these. But
True.
she covers in detail like the physical toll it takes on her body having to
yeah
clean. And it's true. I mean, like I said, there's no comfortable way to clean a baseboard. You either have to like stand up straight and bend all the way over, or you have to be on your knees, bent over, and it's hard on your knees, it's hard on your back.
Yeah, like she could not afford a psychiatrist or a therapist or physical therapy or chiropractor or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a good
she
point.
did say that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Someone said on top of her having scoliosis. Yeah, and I have slight scoliosis, so I know too. Like, I felt like I paralleled a lot with her. So yeah, it was just you know, a lot of the physicality of it, and it's interesting because I feel like being a maid is one of those things that people are like, oh, I could do that job. That seems so easy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, not an easy job at all.
And she doesn't shy away from describing that, and I think that's a really cool.
And can we talk about the toilets?
Yeah, talk about the toilet.
Like, dude.
Yeah.
Toilets, man. Cleaning other people's shit. Like,
clean your fucking
when
toilet.
She like talked about leaving the I forget whose house it was, talked about leaving one of the houses and like giving it the middle finger.
Yes.
Oh my god. Goddamn toilet.
I know. I wish I could have done that. I went to like a really like conservative college and like I couldn't have done that, but I wanted to all the time. So yeah, that was, she went into a lot of that. And then it was interesting too, the balancing act between her getting new jobs like independently from where she worked and having to balance not making too much money still, but making just enough to get by. And it's interesting too, the daycare aspect of it, you know, not, you know, if she made a tiny bit more, she would lose some of her voucher for her kids' daycare. And if she couldn't afford daycare, she couldn't work.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Right. Well, what I thought was interesting was the transition. So I guess we're kind of like hopping forward to that, but the transition of wanting the stability of working for this company where she got paid less, but it was just a more stable, more consistent job. And so she talks about like basically like it shows like the currency of like your mental health, you know, like, because I've been there before. I'm sorry, I have my hair that's really bugging me, but I've been there before. Not in her situation exactly, but just trying to make my own thing as like doing more like arts and dance. I do like dance stuff, and I do like teaching dance and like musical theater and stuff like that. And it's like, I love that I get to do it, but there's also this like feeling of just not having that stability and just the money it takes to like get from point A to point B. And she talks about not getting paid in between houses, you know, just stuff like that. I think even when she actually doesn't changes jobs, it's still not a situation. So I just found that interesting, and I like could relate to it in a way where I was just like, yeah, like I could understand like being like, I just can't handle this lack of stability.
And then along with that, money. And she talks about too like having unstable like coworkers. When she like Jordan said, I think it would be hard to work alongside someone like Angela. You know, when your job also depends on somebody else showing up, and you know that person is unstable too, like that's intense. Like that's so much to think about on top of all the other stuff they had to think about. David brought up a good point too. It was hard to read describing how sick Mia was. I felt like that was really hard to read throughout the book, is like her intense descriptions of that.
That was hard. And then especially, I mean, I know we can just hop all over the place at this point. But the reaction of the doctor
Yes.
Of like, you need to do better for your daughter.
Yes. Okay. I
got
so upset at that point. So my husband's in medical school. I mean, well, he's out now. Well, it's complicated. You know, COVID fucked up everything.
We know. But
yeah. But I literally turned to him. I was like, guess what this doctor said to her? You should never do this. I was so mad. You know, especially because the part that got me was when she went to go get the tubes in her daughter's ears, which you know, she was already scared about. And he basically says, if you don't want to do this, that saves me time. And I was like, nope. I about threw my book across the room. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I don't know how she didn't cut a bitch. You know, like I don't know how. Like, oh man, like I'm not even
she didn't.
I'm not even a mom, but I just feel like I kind of imagine throughout this book, like, what if this were my mom? And that's kind of like what I thought. And I was like, if someone said that to my mom, I would get so upset. My mom is so like fiercely protective of her babies. And like, if someone had said that to my mom, me knowing how much of herself my mom gives to me, that's ridiculous. And with Stephanie, everything she did was for Mia. Everything she did. You know, she essentially gave up her entire life for her. And then for him to brush her off like that, and for the nurses to treat her the way they did. And I always try to think like, okay, maybe the nurses were having a bad day. Maybe I always try to like give people the benefit of the doubt. But I was like, they treated her so wrong the entire time.
Yeah.
And it was every doctor.
It was every doctor. Like, you know, I mean, there could have been doctors that she left out. I mean, I'm sure there were. Probably, right? But because they were decent at least, and they weren't worth writing about, you know. But there's too many, and you know what? No, like I am at the same time. I'm just like, I don't care. There's no reason to be an asshole to someone who's literally has their sick child in front of you, and it's your fucking job to fix it. Like, you
David
know?
said I got gangster for a second. I
know.
Okay, I am from Baltimore, so sometimes it comes out, but it also makes me upset because I am so close to the medical system, like the healthcare system, and not just is my husband in it, but I'm about to get my degree in like a master's in public health, and part of what I want to fix is these kinds of systems, you know, and part of what I want to do is help people with access and help people I want to set up better programs, because I feel like the programs we have now just don't work for anybody. They don't work. It's not just that they don't work for the patients. They suck for the doctors too. And that's kind of why the doctors treat these patients so badly, is because they don't even get all of their money, I guess, from it sometimes. And it's just like a lot of paperwork and headache for them too. And they shouldn't treat people like that. But at the same time, I almost get it, because it sucks on all sides. So yeah, when she would talk about all of the like doctors and nurses and stuff, I was like, man, you guys let her down. Like it just made me so sad, because I felt like they always kicked her right when she was down, you know. And like it just made me really sad. And that was my soapbox for a moment, so we can move on.
No, that's great that you said that, because there's just it's just so complex. Like the whole system is, so many people don't know. I don't even know that much. I know something, but not that much. So I think like let's round up kind of the maid the maid discussion, the maid within maid discussion. But I feel like we talked about a good amount, you know, the relationships with her clients, the ickiness.
I think we should mention what was his name? Henry. We do need to give a shout out to Henry, because he made her feel like a person, and I think that's important to mention him. Yeah.
Are we talking about the lobster?
Yes, I love the lobster guy, Henry.
The lobster scene was just so, there was definitely like, she does put in like nuggets of like, more so later, like you have to kind of get through that first at least like quarter of the book. But as you go on, you know, there are these moments of humanity And then also later, the couple, I'm really bad at remembering names, but the couple later, one of her last houses, that there's the older woman who's quite ill and gives her that tip. And I was interested because we posted, we should repost this, by the way, but we posted Stephanie's post about like an itemized list of things that you should do for your maids, or even if you're at a hotel. And one of them was like a $10 tip for every day that you received service. And that made me think of that. I was like, was that the genesis of that? Or, like, I don't know, but it was definitely like a touching moment, a profound moment that she like gave her this extra money. And you could tell that the husband like really wanted her to get to Missoula.
Yeah. It was really cool how like some of these clients and people in her life took the mantle of being her parent in a way, even though they didn't know it. They were very like maternal and paternal towards her, and that's how I kind of felt with like that guy, and with Henry, and Pam was maternal with her a lot. And I thought that was really interesting how like how they kind of like became family.
We should touch on this. Kimberly just shared a really personal story. My daughter's doctor kept telling me my daughter just had growing pains, and I kept fighting with them. And after threatening to take my money elsewhere, they did an MRI. They found a tumor that was in her entire pelvis and entangled in her spinal cord, and was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma.
Wow.
Holy shit. Yeah. I mean, I know stories like that. And I think, and then interestingly, I don't want to make too much of a statement, but they've been mostly women. But there is a whole thing around female pain, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Of like, you're making it up.
And that goes for physical and mental pain.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say. But totally. Kimberly, I am glad you kept fighting.
Yeah. You have to be your own advocate in the system. Yeah. Like, you absolutely. I have a whole thing with like, especially my mom and then my parents were in a really bad car accident. So, in the aftermath of that, like so much advocating, like like if anything ever happens to you in the future, God forbid, but any of you here, like, don't fight the healthcare system alone. Like,
yeah,
don't take, like, always get a second opinion from another doctor if you can. Invite the people that are near you that you trust, invite them in and let them help you, because I've luckily not too much personally, but within my personal life, with different people I know, and that speak to that story exactly.
Oh, there's a happy ending though. She said after 14 rounds of intense chemo and 37 rounds of radiation, the cancer was gone. That is
great.
Really good to hear, Kimberly. And thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you. So many of you guys sharing such like heartwarming story. I mean, I'm glad that both of them had a happy ending. Thank you all for sharing your stories.
Book therapy.
It's my therapist. We can all be each other's therapist. I'm happy to go back to any of that stuff. But the other thing I'm curious to talk about is her housing situation, like the evolution of that. And so we kind of really left off with Travis's house, and the ending to that was definitely ignited some feelings. But like you said, he did a little bit redeem himself with somewhat assisting her, and like put in the AC unit in her new place, and would still like kind of be a part of, I'm assuming he's not really a part of their lives anymore, but that there was a transition there, which is a healthier thing for her daughter, that there was a transition. And so that's good. But I like small spaces. So like I had this like kind of slightly rosier vision of the studio, but it was obviously like not, but she does like make effort to, like, she clearly had an attachment to it too. you know, and I think that comes through, you know. I just have this vision of this like cute little cabin, like that's all cottagey and just her and her daughter all snuggled up. Not that I like say, you know, that I would. What's that?
For the studio?
For the studio.
Oh, that's so interesting. I feel like you and I have like totally different like visions of that.
Really? Yeah. I mean, no, like when she got into like later, like especially with the mold and stuff, I've had mold in an apartment. I've gotten out of a lease because of mold. I can relate to that. I can relate to waking up in the night like so yeah. So but there was like this sense of she definitely I think she had a sense of triumph and of, you know, like she wasn't there yet and it was not perfect and it was not easy and it had its own difficulties, but yet she like still talked about it being their space and their home.
Yeah.
Which there was so there was a passage, but I'm gonna try to find it. Do you want to see if the comments are adding to that?
They are talking about. I know everyone's being nosy about who Stephanie's second baby and husband are.
Oh yeah, we don't know that, right?
No, she doesn't talk about it at all.
Yeah, I don't see how we could find that out. You nosy bitches.
That's me. I mean, she
okay,
has a lot of those. I feel like I know what you're trying to get to. She has a lot of those little moments where she's like, "This isn't what I wanted, but I'm trying to make the best of it." You have to create your own like happiness around.
Yeah.
The memories, appreciating the stuff you have.
Yeah.
Okay, what about chapter 12, page 124? She says, maybe that was the lesson there. Appreciating the stuff you had, the life you had, using the space you were given. I wished it wasn't a forced journey, but I recognized it as an important part of mine.
Yeah, that's kind of early on in the story. Yeah, for sure.
She kind of repeats that sentiment in different ways.
Yeah. Well, this was a passage I really wanted to read that kind of takes that and then she relates it to her clients. She says, my clients' lives, the homes they worked so hard to afford, were no longer my dream. Even though I had long since let that dream go, I still, in my most honest moments, while dusting rooms covered in pink flowers and dolls, admitted that I desperately wanted the same for my kid. I couldn't help but wonder if the families who lived in the houses I cleaned somehow lost one another in the rooms full of video games, computers, and televisions. The studio apartment where we lived in, despite all its downsides, was our home. I didn't need 2.5 baths and a garage. Anyway, I saw how hard it was to keep them clean.
Yeah.
Like I really liked that. Like that having to like do all that work and being like, well, it's not that great. Like,
yeah. I do. Yeah.
And then
oh yeah, I did want to touch on that too. Audrey said her mantra of saying she loved herself was so touching. Yeah, I really like that. I feel like for me that was like something that really stuck out to me a lot, and I think Kateria kept sending you those quotes.
Yeah.
That's something that I've had to like kind of do myself, you know, with like anxiety and such, as like letting myself feel the feelings and, you know, have those emotions. And she almost like personified the emotions, which I thought was kind of cool, and saying that like her sadness and her grief deserved love, and in turn she also deserved love, and like that was really cool. I'm a huge proponent of that. Is like giving your grief some space to be, and giving your emotions space to, you know, do what they need to do. And then and I know, and for me personally, once I like acknowledge that those feelings and like let them play out, then I can like move on a lot easier. And I felt like for her that was kind of her her way of dealing with things is by saying, even if no one else loves me, I love me, and if I need to cry.
And then she bought the ring for herself.
Yes.
I loved that moment. Oh my gosh. That was great. I think I think her emotional intelligence is like such a huge part of why she got through this, and like I was saying earlier, like why we have this book exists today. And I think it goes to show like the importance of teaching emotional intelligence, like social emotional intelligence should be taught in schools. I think at least at the younger ages.
Yeah.
She liked it. She put a ring on it.
I love you. So yeah, I think that's also really important. So one of my many jobs, I was a nanny, and the lady I worked for, she was part of these like peer counseling groups, and part of what they would do is they would literally like sit in circles with each other and like let their emotions out. So like if they needed to laugh uncontrollably for 30 minutes, they could. If they needed to just like sob or cry, if they needed to scream, they just like let each other scream. And I remember at first being like so uncomfortable around it, because I was like, who, like, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to leave your emotions inside. Who do you think you are? A person?
I can't believe.
And so but I remember being so uncomfortable, and then eventually like through that, I mean, because I had to be there, I was like the nanny, is that I'm gonna have to become a nanny at this current, oh my god. Is that like it taught me emotional intelligence. Like I don't know that if I had ever encountered that and learned about that, I don't know that I would be able to even navigate the corona times very well. I think this is the most well-adjusted I've been, and it's because of that, I guess that emotional intelligence, you know, and having learned that. And I feel like you said, Stephanie definitely had a lot.
I think that's a big part of why she's just so eloquent and is able to get through what she gets through. So I do have to get going, unfortunately. I wanted to touch on maybe like, well, we could definitely end with just like where it ends, of course. But before we get that, I wanted to touch on like even, so she gets that tax return, which is the ring, right? So on page 229, I just like, it was just such an interesting like thing, to just like see what she buys when she gets this tax return. But you know, she just gets this like cash. Like that's the one thing that we have right now is like you get if you can get your tax return and not have to pay at the end of the year. So it's not everybody, but the night the tax refund money hit my account, we went out to eat at Red Robin. I let Mia get a chocolate milkshake. We went to the store and filled the cart with food we normally couldn't afford. Avocados, tomatoes, frozen berries for pancakes. I bought a bottle of wine. Over the next week, I bought a frame and a full-size mattress and a heated pad so I didn't have to heat the whole room at night. I found insulating curtains and cheap rods on clearance. I bought Mia a kid-sized trampoline for her to jump on instead of the couch and bed. I bought myself something I'd been wanting for several years, a titanium tension set diamond ring for $200. I was tired of waiting for a man to come into my life who would buy me one for me. It was more money than I'd spent on something unnecessary in years. As hard a decision as it was, I needed to make a commitment to myself, to trust in my innate strength. I could do this, all of this, just fine on my own. The ring that slid down over the middle finger on my left hand served as a constant reminder of that. So yeah, so it's just interesting to like see like what she does with like, there's this specific instance of like, obviously like being like the Yang Yang book club, like we think about some of these things as we read, and she gets this money, and so it's like proof right here. Like we talk about like how there's like studies that have been done, you know, that people spend it on food and stuff like that, and like that's like the first thing she does is she spends it on food, and like going to like a restaurant, you know, she doesn't normally get to eat out, and then buys something that saves her money because she doesn't have to heat the house anymore, and then buys herself, you know, like puts money into the economy by buying a ring, but then it also has this, it's such a beautiful moment, like in a literary sense, I guess, because it like really like has this profound meaning.
Yeah.
So I love that passage as well. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah,
It's on my middle finger. Actually, I didn't think of it that way. I was thinking like, oh, it's like not quite the ring finger, but yeah, that's great. Check out my ring, yo.
I love
That's
it.
great.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, as the Yang Yang Book Club, oh my gosh, there's still 17 people here. That's amazing. That you stuck through.
I also want to, like, the very last thing that we had written down, and I think this kind of encompasses her journey, but also I think it kind of encompasses why we all love the Yang Yang so much, is page 264. She said, maybe to find a true home, I needed to open my heart to love a home. I had stopped believing that home was a fancy house on a hill. Home was a place that embraced us, a community, a knowing. And I thought that was cool that that's like how she ended it. But then I immediately thought of the yin yang. You know what I mean? Like, I immediately thought, like, I had honestly gotten to the point when I came into the yin yang that I had kind of given up on the sense of community. Like, I don't go to church anymore. I'm in a time where like I'm kind of isolated, and I'd kind of just like given up on it. And so coming to the yin yang was like a breath of fresh air, and just like opening up my heart to be part of a community was like really cool. And I like that she kind of ended it like that being part of a community means opening yourself up to a community.
Like she has this whole evolution of like the like thing of basic needs, you know, and it what does it end in? It ends in like, she like literally says like people in like hippie skirts with tattoos and leg hair. She's like, I found my people, you know. I felt so happy for her in that moment, because I like know that feeling. Like we all have like niches and communities that we feel comfortable and we feel like we can be ourselves, and she got that, and that was like such a huge win at the end of all of that we all went through with her in that book. Thank you. I think that's the perfect quote to
end with.
End on. So
I feel like we could have kept talking, but thank you. I'm gonna put up some of the thank yous. Kimberly said, thank you so much. Thank you for coming, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Someone said,
so we should all tweet at Andrew to try to get him to come to the next ones after reading his fucking book.
Yes.
Come to your book club.
Daniel said,
I want to go on a trip to. Oh yeah, who wants to go to Missoula? We should have that be like a Yang Yang book club trip.
Yes, we want to.
Let's all go to Missoula.
Yes.
If you're in the U.S.
Of something great. We think so too. We think.
Oh yeah.
Really good way.
Yeah.
I think somebody said, I don't know where it is now, but I think somebody asked what's next. We are reading War on Normal People. And
we still have a giveaway going.
Yes. Go to.
You might already be entered, because if you're here. Oh, and in the future, should I announce this?
I don't know what you're announcing.
Oh, you don't know. Oh, yeah. Well, we haven't like officially. In the future, we'd like to have. I think I brought this up with you, but in the future, we'd like to have each month a giveaway by participating in the chat, right?
Yeah.
So
Holly asked when it ends. I think. What did we say? That
on the 10th. On the 10th, I think.
Yeah.
Of
April. Giveaway ends April 10th.
Yeah, and there's 20 books and.
That we are giving away.
I think there's some people who like only subscribe to the YouTube and didn't do the newsletter. So if they didn't listen to the directions, they're not like, we're using the email list that we have to reach out to people.
Yeah, we are going to use that for newsletter eventually.
And a newsletter,
Audrey said, we are both beautiful and insightful. Thanks.
Thanks.
Gregory said, thanks, my dudes. No prob.
Thanks, Greg. Happy to have you.
Gordon said, I already have the book, so don't pick me. I think it's going to be random. So if we do pick your name, you can always say, you know.
Yeah. We've gotten that actually quite a bit. Some people saying like, I already have the book. But there's people who don't. So.
Yeah, and you also have the option of, if you do want to get it, you can give it away to someone else. Is the next live book not scheduled yet? We will schedule it. We're still working on that, but we will always let you guys know about those things on our Twitter page.
Yeah. So please invite your real life friends to join this book club.
Yes, we want it to be an inclusive community, not just of Yang Gang, but of everybody. We want to learn from each other. But
I have so many people in my life who weren't necessarily super Yang Gang, got really involved, but they liked him. And I was like, well, we're reading his book next month. And they're like, oh yeah. And they're interested, so think about that. Think about the people in your real life that you can draw in, because that's the way we can help for, there is a purpose to this book club beyond just books, of getting the word out. So bring your friends.
Also, I would like to plug that I am going to start doing live readings on Mondays on the YouTube channel of your stories. So send them in. I've gotten 2 from one person. So tomorrow I'll read that, and then I will also read a story by Kateri. And then maybe one of mine. So yeah, send them in.
Do it.
Let people know about the book.
You're reading my story. You have to read your story too.
Okay, yeah.
Unless you want me to read yours. I could read your story next time. Because I'm excited for you to read my story. It'll be interesting to hear someone else read it,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that'll be interesting.
Let me know if you want me to do that.
Can't wait for the live readings. Well, tell your friends. We need more stories. Yeah. So
story. What hashtag Yang Gang story time, right?
Yes, hashtag Yang Gang story time.
Yeah, so that's a new thing.
Yeah.
And our Takeover Tuesdays, please make sure you're giving our Takeover Tuesdays some love as well. Yes. On Tuesday. Who's this Tuesday? Oh, this Tuesday is Eliza. We have to check in with her.
Yes. Please check on those, because it's way more work than you think.
Yeah, we would love it if we could see you on those videos. Comment your thoughts on the books that are recommended. Recommend more books. That would be great.
Audrey said, what time does the live reading start? I think I'll just probably do it at the same time. Probably. You think?
Oh, I'm going to be at work though tomorrow until 11, Megan, just if you want me there to help you with it. So I could do it at noon my time.
Noon your time? Okay.
Yeah.
We could do that then.
But
3 o'clock my time. I'm not going anywhere.
I mean, I work, guys, in a mental health, it's like a nursing home type of situation. So I have to go to work.
She's a superhero.
They need me. Okay. All right. So if that's all, then last thing. We should tell them about that. We're gonna launch the website soon.
Yes, we are launching our website soon. We have a really cool guy. We call him Cyber Jake. He is helping us out.
Cyber Jake's the shit.
Yes.
He's building our website for us.
Yes, but we will have a website, and we'll be announcing that soon, along with a newsletter and stuff like that. So look out for that announcement. We are very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yes. Daniel said, hope you stay healthy, Kateri, because you're going out there.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Luckily, they're all there. They just stay in.
Yeah.
They don't go anywhere. So, yeah. Thank you, though.
All right. Okay. I think that's everything. So thank you, guys.
It's a wrap, guys. You rock.
Time. Bye. Oh, I'm trying to end it.